In Buenos Aires, the city of melancholy, it doesn't take much to bring out displays of social unease. But now the old familiar shadows seem full of menace and are knocking loudly on the door of Presidenta Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. The former First Lady romped to victory in last year's presidential election. Replacing husband Nestor, her campaign was laden with promises. But people here aren't slow to sink into malcontent. As I head down Santa Fe, the capital's main street, to a monthly meeting of foreign correspondents, my taxi driver is quick to remind me that the glamorous Cristina has failed on all counts. She's already in a weaker position than her husband, the economy growing at over 8% annually since 2003. Mr. Kirchner was at the helm of a revival. Recent high inflation has weighed heavily on the popularity ratings of the just 5 months in office Mrs. Kirchner. Passing cafes and wine bars, the habitual babble of the porteños, the residents of Buenos Aires are nervous. The legacy of 2001's financial crisis hangs heavy. Dominating conversation is a standoff between the centre-left government and the country's farmers. Buoyed by world commodity prices, the Kirchner governing machine decided to compensate for Nestor's pre-election spending. They raised taxes on agricultural exports, explaining it as a necessity to control inflation. As a world powerhouse in agriculture, the sector's taxes provide billions of dollars in revenue. It's the lifeblood of the country, and as another commentator put it, you don't beef with Argentinian beef. The radio blares out the constant hum of debate. While the taxi driver pauses to catch breath, I hear the words of a well-known political commentator. Cristina has managed to do in 3 weeks what Argentina's farmers couldn't over 50 years. Unite them, he says. Having none of the tax increases, farmers drove their tractors out of the fields and onto the roads. Unprecedented protests crippled exports and caused food shortages. They waited for Kirchner to award the concessions. Instead, they got a battle. She told them they were greedily holding the country to ransom and the government wouldn't back down. Not able to get their head around the fact her administration is willing to gamble the country's green gold, supportive masses came out on force, bashing pots and pans to show their allegiance to the farmers' plight. An exotic ritual that a foreign spectator might imagine is dispatching rain clouds over the Casa Rosada, the government house. As my taxi speeds past the political centre, we see the remnants of a fight back. Busloads of piqueteros, paid protesters from the shanty towns, brought in as would-be government supporters. A transparent attempt to take hostage public opinion. The dispute has cost Argentina heavily. It's also displayed a lack of touch by 55-year-old Cristina. Talk of an ice queen in a fairy tale palace is filtering into the psyche. At our meeting, we discussed the seeming disdain from the government for the media. Neither Cristina nor her husband has held a single press conference since 2003. The hermetic approach is beginning to take its toll. One of my contacts told me he postponed buying a new company because of the lack of information about economic plans. Cristina Kirchner still has plenty of time to right her shortcomings. She is blessed with a weak opposition and a husband that just this week has been appointed as president of the Peronist Party. But as the first couple's support continues to plummet, the clouds loom heavy for La Presidenta. Finding a resolution to the farmers' dispute may be the ray of light she needs, and there are not many of those at the moment on the colourful landscape of Argentine politics. For World Report, this is Paul Byrne in Buenos Aires, Argentina.